So we're living in a crazy and turbulent time, and it's making us all, I think, take a step back and reflect on our place in the world, in society, our relationship to our fellow man, some of the rules and regulations to things that we need to reassess. And I am not qualified, nor do I have any desire to engage in the politics or the action steps at this moment, for this particular moment. Also, I think just taking the temperature of the world as I see it out there, I think a man of my gender and particular race probably isn't looking to be heard from right now. And I understand that. It's kind of like that place in a relationship when there's a problem and your partner is raging and expressing pain. They're not looking for you to come up with some miracle answer or solution. They just need to be heard and have their pain expressed before action steps can be taken by both of you. So that's where we're at. So I'm not here to offer any answers, but what I do feel some need to express is my belief in the root cause of human emotions. I've always believed that there are two elemental energies that make up our existence, and that they are love and fear, and that everything else is a byproduct, a symptom of those two elementals. Anger, rage, hatred, resentment, jealousy, all those dark emotions are not in and of themselves elemental powers. They spring from fear. On the other side, joy, ecstasy, happiness, contentment, bliss, all of those things are not in and of themselves singular elements. They spring from love. So when you're addressing a situation and you're really looking to get to the root of it, you have to make the effort to see if what you're seeing on the surface is coming from either love or fear, and then approach it with empathy and with understanding and with self-reflection on your own loves and fears. So we have anger, we have injustice, we have all these things that are stemming from fear. Well, what is the fear? If you drill real down to the root, what is the fear? Well, fear usually comes from ignorance. Fear comes from the not knowing of what's on the other side. The other, that other guy doesn't look or behave like me. Therefore, if they're introduced into my world, it threatens my way of being, my understanding of how the world works, therefore threatening my existence. All fear ultimately is existential fear. It's the fear of your existence ending, the fear of death, because you don't know what's on the other side. Regardless of how deep your faith may be or what you may think, I mean, death is, as Shakespeare said, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler has ever returned. Nobody knows for sure where we came from before we were born or where we're going after we leave here. And that creates a deep existential fear. So you live a life that builds around norms and creates expectations that ease that existential fear, things you can understand. I go to work, I do this. They ease that underlying constant existential fear. So when things that you don't understand threaten that, that's where you get your reaction, the rage, the no, that's not the right way to do it. This is the right way to do it. That's not the right way to behave. This is the right way to behave. My God's better than your God. Whatever it is, it's just a primate who's coming into consciousness, who doesn't know the answer to before or after this existence. And that fear is underneath everything, and they're trying to manage the matter in front of them to comfort that existence, to ease that existential fear. So when things that they don't understand threaten it, it becomes rage and violence and hatred and all that stuff. So the only way to combat that fear is to combat the ignorance of it, to try and answer some of the questions that frighten you, that you don't have the answers to. Well, you're not going to answer the ultimate question, no matter how many mushrooms you take. It's going to be tough to come away with a true answer, and no matter how deep your faith is, unless you go there and come back, it's going to be tough. So you can only put a salve on it, a Band-Aid on it, to kind of help get through. And the only one that works is that other elemental. It's love and empathy. And we're also a social species. We don't behave very well alone. So if you can give the feeling to the other, to the person who's afraid, who's acting out of rage or creating injustices, if you could give the feeling that we're in this together, if you can reach across. Now, that sounds real, lovey-dovey, kumbaya, la 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 la, and right now we're in a time of righteous anger. So that doesn't sound like it works. But let me tell you, you can have righteous anger. Anger, yes, comes from a negative, that's fear, and you can have righteous anger, because righteous anger ultimately is to produce, it's a directing of that energy to produce positive results. Destructive anger, guised as righteous anger, isn't going to do anything. That's revenge. Now, revenge may feel good in the moment, but I would submit that it doesn't really even feel good, that revenge, that taking the guy out who did the injustice on you, or burning down the place. All it's going to do is anesthetize the moment. It's going to numb the fear and the anger and the pain in you for a moment, but it's not going to make it go away. That's still going to be there. The only thing that makes it go away is to wipe away anger altogether, righteous or otherwise, and reach out and meet in the middle and find a way to understand that we're all suffering from the same existential fear on the same little speck of dust in the universe. That's hard. And nobody wants to hear it, especially now in an environment like this. Nobody wants to hear that part. They want to stick with the righteous anger because they think that stuff hasn't worked before, on both sides of an anger issue. But ultimately, it's the only way. When the temperature comes down a little, it's the only way to go is together. It's the only way, and that's hard, and it takes, reaching across. I look at, the social media, and the friends and acquaintances I have on there are wildly different. They're from, far out on wearing tinfoil hats and in conspiracy land, and way out on some hard social justice branch. And everything in between. And I consider them all friends and acquaintances. And because I believe deep down, we all want to be on the love side of that column. So any actor will tell you that the easiest emotions to reach when you're playing a character are the big ones, rage and anger, and it's easy to get to that place. That's easy. The harder thing to do, the more difficult, the thing that takes skill, is to find those places in the character of calm and contentment and understanding. And it's the same in life. So if you're not going to make the effort to look at the other guy, get out of your own place, righteous as it may be, on either side of whatever the issue is, and get out and look and try and go back to that first question of where are their reactions coming from? What part of love or fear is producing that? And see if you can empathize and make the effort to understand and acknowledge to them that you understand. Then they feel not alone. Then you feel not alone. And you've taken the first steps towards some kind of reconciliation and moving forward. But that actually takes a lot of work. And it's not until you can get out of the heat of that one emotion that you can see the perspective. You know, there's a great picture taken from the, taken from the Voyager spacecraft of the Earth, and it looks like a little speck of dust. You know, Carl Sagan said this better than I ever could, but he said about that picture, look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions and ideologies and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. That's all we have. So do your best to effect the changes that reflect justice for all. Participate, if you didn't participate before, in finding justice for all, and do it by finding empathy in what you find offensive, in what you find aggravates you or angers you. That's the only way, is to look at the root love and fear on the other side and say, I see you and understand you, and there's a way we can do this together. My best thoughts for now.